Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the very first BPM Summit conference on generics and biosimilars. We were supposed to be in Munich by now, but since the pandemic is happening still, we are holding this event virtually. We are here to meet leaders, discuss challenges, and transform your ecosystem. My name is Simona, and I'm a Community and Relationship Manager at Y Summit. So you'll be meeting me more often, especially during the networking breaks. Till I talk and speak about logistics, I'd like to ask you to just type in the chat your name, where you're joining from, and then everybody can somehow get the idea of who's in the audience with us. So considering the logistics, everything should be very user-friendly, we hope so. So on the stage, you can see all the main presentations. Then you can see also networking, where you'll have between 60 to 180 seconds to meet with somebody one-on-one randomly, so you can explore this option. Then you've got Expo, where you can explore the masterclasses that we're holding, and also information about our new community platform called BPM Workout. In this platform, you can also access the recordings of this conference. So if you didn't manage to see any presentation that you wish to, you just register and subscribe at BPM Workout, and you can see it later. I'll be talking about it when the time comes. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce our chairman of this conference, Samir Agarwal. Samir is a pharma leader with 30 years of global experience, with expertise in strategy, portfolio management, acquisitions, licensing, general management, IP, regulatory, sales and marketing of pharmaceutical products. Samir runs the strategy and M&A consultant firm for the pharma, healthcare, and life sciences space, and at CSA Healthcare. So welcome, Samir, and the stage is yours.
Thank you, Simona, for your kind introduction, and good morning, guten tag from my side, also from Frankfurt. And first of all, I'd like to thank Miro Harnak from Y Summits for the kind invitation. And it's a pleasure to speak to all of you through virtual platform. And before I start my keynote first presentation, I would like to request all the participants to participate actively, send your questions, and I will ensure that I ask most of the questions to the panel members or the speakers. So I have been given this task to start the conference with a presentation on new trends in the field of biosimilars and generics. So let me share my screen, and we start with this very interesting and important topic. So what I'll do here is that I will first give you a quick overview of what's the latest with respect to trends, and then some key success factors for PPM, especially aligned to with the latest trends, and then we will then move on to the next session. So first of all, some of the major pharma trends which this company here called startups, they have analyzed what some of the top startup companies are active in and what are the trends. So as you see, most of the topics which you see on the screen are known to you, and artificial intelligence, flexible production, precision medicine, additive manufacturing, etc., are the latest trends with respect to innovation. And it's important to understand this because whatever is innovated in the new drug area or new research area ultimately impacts the generics and biosimilars business, because that business also gets impacted by, or we have to adapt the generic and biosimilar business accordingly. Take the case of blockchain, for example, or supply chain adaptability with respect to flexible production. So this is an important topic for all of us to consider. EQVIA or IQVIA has projected 9 key topics, which are so-called the legacy of COVID-19. And so there is a substantial healthcare system reconfiguration. So we are all aware that face-to-face visits with HCPs have declined, and this has an impact on how business will be done going forward. The non-COVID-19 patient backlog is a major topic, and I think it is very relevant for generic and biosimilars business, because when the backlog comes up and more number of patients, which you will also see in my subsequent slides, have to be addressed by different countries, there will be tremendous amount of healthcare spend pressure. And this can be definitely managed by more utilization of generics and biosimilars. Post-pandemic launches, one very interesting thing is that in the Western world, especially in the US and Europe, also in Japan and elsewhere, multiple regulatory approvals still continue to happen for the new drug, in the new drug space. So in other words, there was no major impact on new drug approvals. However, it impacted the clinical trials for the pipeline products, and this is where some bit of challenges are likely to happen. We are likely to see a slowdown of regulatory approvals because some of these clinical trials which were deferred will now start. The fourth major topic, as you see here on the screen, are price and value battleground, and this topic I already mentioned partly when I was covering about talking about the non-COVID patient backlog, and we see a potential higher utilization or usage of generics and biosimilars due to this. We have always been hearing about digital health systems because the face-to-face meetings have substantially declined, and this trend is likely to continue. Which is also linked to digital customer engagement. More consolidation is expected in this area. Then additionally, once again, we are coming back to the biosimilars takeoff. This is also linked to these two topics with respect to backlog, but additionally, uptake of biosimilars into the original molecule has also improved significantly, and then it is expected that substantial growth will happen in this space. And one of the future slides, I'll also cover what IQVIA has estimated in this space. Another major trend, it's partly linked to COVID and partly due to other reasons as well, is CNS re-emergence. You will recall that there were very few new drugs which were launched in the CNS space, whether pain management, anesthesia, and other CNS mainstream indications. It is now expected that this growth rate will accelerate tenfold. So the growth rate, the past CAGR has been only 0.4%, and now it is expected to reach 3 to 5% in the next 5 years. Another very important estimate by IQVIA is that there has been substantial increase in Chinese innovation or innovation in China in the space of healthcare, pharmaceuticals, biological products, and this is likely to continue to increase. So this was IQVIA's perspective, and another similar report has been published. By the way, all the data in my presentation today is in public domain, and I have mentioned the sources. So if you want to refer to some of these and read more, please feel free to use these links later on and get more information. So here in this one by Chris Lawson of Orientation Agency, most of the topics are similar, but some of the major ones which I would still like to highlight are evolving commercial strategies, because the way business has been impacted last 2 years, or especially last year, the commercial strategies are likely to evolve further, and I'll come to that. Cost pressure and pricing reforms are partly touched upon, and specialty sectors driving more M&A are also a trend projected for 2021. Now, let's look at the US situation. IQVIA published this report somewhere in mid-February, and what they found that in US last year there were substantial, and we are all aware of that, decrease in the prescriptions in the institutional and office space, whereas telehealth increased by more than 2,000%. The elective procedures were down 27% in last year in US. And so this has made a major impact in the way business is done, or the way business was done, and the way business will be done in future, especially this year. And as we recall, US is the largest pharma as well as the largest generic market in the world, and presently not the largest biosimilar market, but presently the largest generic market. This slide is also very interesting, and what you see here is that what IQVIA here have estimated that there was a drop of almost 1 billion diagnosis visits in US in 2020. So they looked at the usual trends, which is this dark blue line, which would have happened with respect to diagnosis visits in case COVID was not there. But when the COVID pandemic hit us, you can see that in primarily between March and May, there was a substantial drop in the hospital visits or the diagnosis visits. And this is 30% lower than the expected diagnosis visits. So this impacted specialties, and especially oncology and gastroenterology, and then anesthesiology as well, because less surgeries were done. Now, what is the projection for 2021? The situation will substantially improve. They will still be about 4% lower than expected diagnosis visits in US in 2021. Many of the therapeutic areas are likely to recover fully. For example, cardiology, family medicine. Oncology will also recover, is expected to recover. It will reach about 70%, but some others like pediatrics will still be down. So this is about US. Now, based on the overall pharma trends, now let's come to the generics. And so despite the pandemic or the latest world economic situation, the key success factors for generics largely remain unchanged. And they are quality of products, robust supply chain, and the right price. So these three parameters still remain the key success factors. And there are some ups and downs in the trends here, but mostly remain the major important topics. One of the negative trends which has been happening in recent past and continues, for example, is about fragmentation of the generic industry globally. As an example, IQVIA has estimated that in 2014, 28% of the generic business was by the top 10 generic companies of the world. This decreased to 21% in 19. So that means market has more competition from more number of generic players. The biggest generic market, like I said earlier, is US. And US, 90% of the purchasing was done by the top 3 wholesalers, which brought this pricing in US substantially down. But this trend is now recovering post 2018. And this trend continues. Increased regulatory scrutiny has led to drug shortages. This is also a trend in certain ways. partly negative for many companies, but positive for some other companies, because many of these companies could take advantage of these drug shortages and supply the products and get more market shares. Some of the positive trends are including those, for example, 25% of the small molecule generic business is coming from top 4 therapy areas, which are antibacterial, pain, cardiology, and oncology. Each one of them is growing between 3 to 6% over the last 6 years. And I'm talking only generics here. Specialty generics are becoming increasingly important. As per IQVIA's estimate, in 2019, and 2020 numbers are still not available in public domain. In 2019, the specialty generics contributed 12% of the global generic market, and they also grew by about 12%, 10 to 12%. The advent of value-added generics is also on the upward swing. In 2019, 17% of the global generic market value in value terms came from so-called VAMs, or value-added generics. That's a different topic, that the major growth came from emerging market, and in mature markets, the growth did not happen that much. The market remained stable. So just a quick slide on value-added medicines. Basically, we are talking about, as most of you are already aware, we are talking about existing molecules with improvements in various areas, especially convenience, better efficacy in certain ways, and newer indications, or reduction in some side effects. And this benefits patients, healthcare professionals, payers, as well as researchers. And some of the major value-added medicines which have been successful in recent past and continue to be successful, for example, are mentioned over here, especially the drug repositioning, for example, in UNIV. Now let's come to biosimilars, the trends. This slide is from Deloitte. They did an analysis in 2014. So I just want to show first what was the status 2014 and where have we reached now, and what are the trends. So you see, in that time, we all recall that the US regulatory environment was still under development, whereas Europe and Japan regulatory pathways were well established, and multiple products were already biosimilars, were already having regulatory approvals. There were issues with respect to prescriber acceptance in US and certain other geographies, but you see a lot of green boxes here and plenty of blue boxes, which basically show negative situations or lack of acceptance, etc. Right now, we have the world has advanced sufficiently, and the market has advanced sufficiently. We are seeing multiple approvals in US, for example, for biosimilars, and better acceptance, but the key challenges still remain. This is an IQVIA estimate for biosimilars, and this is for US, which has been a market which has been lagging in biosimilars. In 2020, it was just north of 6-7 billion, and between 2020 to 2024, IQVIA is estimating that the market will reach somewhere between 16 to 36 billion by 2024. And as you see on this slide also, the various biologicals which will lose exclusivity. And this is going to bring a major fillip in the biosimilars market. Now, to summarize on biosimilars, the key trends are still shift towards, first of all, the shift overall in the world in pharma industry, shift towards targeted and biological products has given better demand or with growing demand of biologics. That basically clearly means that there is higher pressure with respect to healthcare costs, and that really brings in or makes the role of biosimilars more important. So that's a positive trend and will continue to be the positive trend. Still, in case of biosimilars, there is lower competition, and it still remains to be the trend. The biosimilar space is not getting as crowded as many of the what I call vanilla generic space, where there are multiple players for every product. Biosimilar market still remains an evolving market in to large extent, especially for monoclonal antibody biosimilars. And I'm certain that we will hear much more about biosimilars in various presentations today and tomorrow, and some of the exciting presentations are already lined up. Interchangeability and substitutability still remains a major topic of concern, and this trend is this negative trend is I don't know if I should say call it a trend, but this problem still remains. So now let me come quickly in few minutes to link key success factors for portfolio and project management, especially portfolio management and corporate strategy, and link it with the overall present trends in biosimilars and generics space. So usually the key success factors for business and PPM strategy or corporate strategy, these play a major role: which markets, the types of products, IP strategy, prioritization, and make or buy decisions. So most of the companies currently are already getting into re-evaluating these parameters in line with the current trends. I mean, this is a usual process. Every company, in any case, regularly evaluates these topics periodically, at least once a year, to fine-tune their strategies and portfolio in line with the latest trends in the market. But it is more important right now because of the various trends I just explained in my previous slides. So let me just quickly cover some of these. So I see that there is more importance right now to look at the short and mid-term strategy with respect to corporate strategy, which needs to be adapted in line with these trends. And there are multiple reasons for that. For example, I just mentioned that there are better chances of getting higher market shares in generics business as well as biosimilars business. So there is also a trend moving towards there is more demand for value-added medicines, or there is better recognition, I should say, for value-added VAMs. And this also would mean that we need to adapt our strategy, corporate strategy, to focus more, especially find ways in short-term or mid-term, or the drug shortages which have occurred in certain countries or geographies. To address those, maybe we need to adapt our short-term strategy to supply more products which we can quickly manufacture and supply. I mean, I'm not saying that any product, especially in the VAMs or biosimilars, we can quickly manufacture and supply. That's always a mid to long-term strategy, but there are many short-term strategies which we can adapt. Secondly, which markets, after, for example, very high-level example, after UK has gone out of European Union, most of the approvals in a recent analysis have come out that UK has been approving products faster than European Union. There are faster approvals right now in China as compared to many other geographies. So, so that has also made it very important for us to evaluate which markets we would focus or reprioritize based on the market trends. Now, obviously, when we have a portfolio, we can't do everything together. Every product has a different priority, and successful companies always prioritize or reprioritize their portfolio regularly based on market needs. And this is the time where we need to especially get into this and relook at our prioritization of products based on the market trends. So I already covered primarily corporate strategy, markets, and prioritization, but these are also linked to the type of products which we are doing, and specifically which products we should do also needs to be reevaluated in line with I mentioned earlier, there is more growth likely in the when IQVIA has projected that the CAGR for products like pain management, anesthesia, etc., are likely to become tenfold. So maybe we need to relook at our portfolio strategy as well with respect to which products. And all this will also mean that we have to look at our IP strategy perhaps once again, or reevaluate again. And also this also means that our make or buy decisions also need to be relooked into. Which products we will develop ourselves, which products we will license in. There would be a shift in that as well based on this. So now to quickly conclude, what we do at CSA Healthcare is basically we bring the pieces together of our clients, pieces together for the jigsaw puzzle, and help our client to bring their strategy together. The areas where we focus on are business and market strategy with respect to geography and therapy areas. We also plan and execute portfolio strategy. We support M&A, especially in commercial due diligence and business integration. And we also, on case-to-case basis, do some licensing and regulatory and clinical affairs work. My introduction was already given. I am a pharmacist with MBA. And I am mainly focusing on oncology, biosimilars, anesthesia, and pain management products, primarily working in Europe and Asia and North America. So with that, I conclude my presentation, and I look forward to any questions. And I wish you a very successful and enjoyable 2 days.